All right, everyone. Brian Blakely here, and just want to welcome everyone to the very first episode of the Good Life Nebraska Small Business Podcast. I am pleased to be joined by Alicia Lyon, who is the owner of Lyon Family Dentistry here in Kearney. Alicia, thanks for taking the time to just sit down and tell us your story. We'll kind of start here with some icebreakers so that we can get to know you a little bit better. First off, what book are you reading right now? I know you're a reader. Alicia and I are in a networking group, and so I know that she is a big reader, audiobook listener, and all that. So what book are you reading right now?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me, Brian. I think it's really great you're doing this. I think it's going to help a lot of people out. So I'm excited to be here. Right now, I'm actually in a dry spell on books. I need a recommendation. I actually do a lot of audiobooks, so I read a lot of books, but it's through audio. Dental school kind of ruined reading for me. Yeah. But audiobook I'm reading right now is actually Spanish short stories. I'm trying to learn Spanish, so nice. That's what we're into right now.
Is it a hygienist that is Spanish speaking here in the office?
A receptionist and an assistant.
Got it.
I would love a hygienist, so.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. I've got into audiobooks too because for me, I can't really listen to them at work very much, but when I'm driving, especially like when I go to Lincoln or Lincoln office or whatever, it's nice to be able to have a book that I can listen to. And
yeah, it just makes the time fly by.
Yeah. If I sit down and actually try to read, it's like 10 minutes and I'm asleep. So, yeah. How about podcasts that you're listening to or that you have listened to in the past that have been good for you?
Sure, yeah. Well, actually, I listen to a lot of mostly dentistry podcasts, honestly. Dentistry Uncensored with Howard Fran. I don't know too many business podcasts. That's something I'll have to look into. My podcasts are more dentistry focused. But Howard Fran, he's a dentist, and he doesn't just focus on the dentistry side, though. He also focuses a lot on the business side. Got it. So it's been great.
Cool. Yeah, I've got a couple insurance podcasts that I listen to a lot, and then just some other. I download a lot of them, but I don't seem to listen to them very much. So, but I really like podcasts. So, well, thanks. So let's get to know about you and really your story as a small business owner and entrepreneur. You're not just a dentist. You do a lot of other stuff and are coming up with different things as far as, what you do if you're interested. So just tell us your story and kind of how you got into dentistry and the steps it took for you to start your own business.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Kearney, Nebraska. Growing up, I kind of thought maybe I would be a restaurant owner. That was kind of my dream, was to own a restaurant. And then I worked in restaurants and decided that's maybe not. So along the way, I decided to become a dentist. And, at first I really didn't know. I kind of thought dental hygiene. And then I was working in a corporation. I didn't like people telling me what to do. And I thought the way they did things was I was like, why are you worried about what earrings I'm wearing? Maybe you should worry about, they're getting refills. And I just, I was like, that was kind of it. I want to be my own boss. And so I talked to an advisor at dental school and, the dental school advisor came to I was going to UNK. And he really encouraged me. He said, no, you are smart enough. You can do it. You can be a dentist. And, I've always worked hard, but I wasn't super smart. And so I was like, well, I don't think I can be a dentist. And he really just encouraged me, no, you can. You're smart enough, you can do it. So that kind of propelled me into that. And luckily, I love dental school. I mean, there's some colleagues that I got in there and they don't like it. That's really unfortunate because you're kind of stuck at that point. But luckily, I loved it. It was a great fit and it's a really good passion. So I graduated in 2016. I wanted to start my own business, but back, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that's what they did. They graduated dental school and they hung up a shingle, as they say, and they went to work. Yep. Well, kind of gone are those days. Most people get out of dental school and they become associates and they just work for people. Or maybe they find another dentist and they buy them out. Sure. So that's what I was kind of looking for. I just couldn't really find anything in the area. My husband and I even talked about, maybe moving out of state. But we really kind of liked this area. Finally, I found a job as an associate in Minden Dental Clinic. And that was a great opportunity. I learned a lot. I was able to, looking back, that was great. If I started out as a business right out of dental school, that would have been disastrous for me and my patients because coming out of dental school, you know a lot, but there's still a ton you don't know. Sure. My years at Minden were great. I was able to focus on just being a dentist, focusing on my patients. My outside time, I could just focus on podcasts and learning and extra education on dentistry and learning how to actually do my craft. Nice. However, that was coming to an end because there was another dentist that was joining us, and that was set from the beginning. I knew that going into it, so I knew it was a short-term thing. I had to find something. And so I was back to kind of square one, trying to find somewhere to buy out, and nothing was really working out. And my husband and I just made a decision. We said, Kearney's our home. We love this community. It's been great to us.
Yep.
My family's here. He had a job here with Kearney Police Department, and so we didn't want to move. So we said, you know what? We're doing it. We're gonna open up a business from scratch.
Yep.
So it's a little scary. I don't know. I just don't know if I don't have as much fear as other people or what. I just knew that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So in January, I made that decision, and then by April, May, we were up and running.
January of 18?
2017.
17, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Now, but you did both. I mean, you had the office here in Kearney, but you were still working in Minden too, right?
Yeah, because that gave me my income. Because honestly, and actually I don't think about this a lot, but I didn't pay myself the whole first year.
Right.
So I was relying on my income from my other job. So you have to kind of be ready for that. If you're going to start a job, can you go without pay, or
Right.
where's your going to be your other source of income?
Yeah.
If you don't, I mean, you have bills are coming in, but the income isn't necessarily coming in, or
Yeah.
not enough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think that starting a small business, you don't realize how long it actually takes to earn actual income. Like, you may be making sales or getting patients, or, for me, writing insurance, but at the same time, you're still not necessarily earning income where you can bring it home. And a lot of times you got to just put that right back in the business.
correct, yeah. And there's so many more expenses than you ever. I mean, you can kind of try to plan out and try to see what they are, but there's so many more expenses, and they snowball, and it's hard to plan for.
Yeah. So you've been doing this since January 2017. How long have you been here in Kearney full time?
So I stayed on there until, it was May of, I think it was just 1 year. 1 year I did the part-time thing.
Okay.
And then since then, so May 2018,
Okay.
I've been here full time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So has it been everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Overall, actually, I would say that starting the business was easier than I anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's ups and downs, and it kind of depends when you ask that question.
Right.
Just there's cycles that you go through. I think starting the business was fun and actually pretty easy and kind of addicting. I kind of say it's kind of like getting a tattoo. You get one, and then you start dreaming of, like, your next one.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I'm stuck in. I'm always kind of dreaming of my next business to start. So starting it's pretty easy, and even maintaining it's not too hard. The real key is making it profitable.
Sure.
And making it so the business runs without you. I think those are the two ingredients that really differentiate a business, so whether it's successful or not, which people don't really see that from the outside. They just see a business and it has its lights on and it's working. But whether it's profitable, whether you're a slave to that business, and then the next phase is the growth, which is just a whole nother level. Just you have to have your systems airtight to grow a business. That's where the real expertise comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that you are a business owner that just happens to be a dentist?
No, I'm a dentist that's learned to be a business owner. Yeah. I wish I could. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to separate, but probably a dentist first and then learning to be a business owner on the side.
Right. But you said, too, you kind of want to learn how to work on the business, not necessarily in the business all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah, that's become a passion of mine. And some, they get stuck like working in their business, and you really have to, my first couple of years at dental school, all I did was, do things about dentistry, continue education. And then now I pretty much am trying to find books and things on business and how to run a business and how to make it run effectively.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here, but you can kind of see the office here. You've got an amazing setup here, and I'm a client, but a lot of people that I talk to that come in here, they love the culture that you have and that you've built. And I know that that is something that works in the background, and you don't necessarily, people on the outside don't necessarily see that. But as a business owner, just kind of talk a little bit about how important it is to kind of build that culture and how it's really an evolving process.
Sure. Yeah. So I knew when I started my business that I was going to have to be different because there are a lot of dentists here in Kearney. And so I had to find a way to stand out, to be different. I couldn't do it the same way that everyone else did. It works great for them and successful and they've been in business for a long time. But I didn't have that. I don't have that patient base. I knew I needed to do something different and create something. So that was kind of my goal, is to make it not like an office, not medical, more homey, more friendly, kind of just a different vibe. Just try to, there's a lot of people who are fearful of the dentist. And so that was kind of a big point, of just trying to make it less intimidating, more, or make them feel at home and make sure that they know this is a place that people care about them, and that, not just me, but the staff and everyone,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, I'm really burned out on the whole COVID talk. We're recording this middle of September, so we've been dealing with this for really 6 months. And I think that a lot of people are burned out on just talking about it in general. It's kind of overwhelming. But I think that there's, especially as a small business owner, there's positives that you can take. And through this, as a small business owner, I think a lot of us, if not everyone, has had to make an adjustment, whether it was offering a different service or adjusting how you treated clients or patients, whatever, or maybe even just financially kind of taking a step back and looking at how you do that. So give me one positive that you've taken out of COVID, and if it was different for you because you really had to shut down. Give me a positive that you've taken out of this that you can, going forward, you can use in your business to make it better.
Sure, yeah. Well, you said it. I'm sick of COVID, that's for sure. Sick of hearing about it. But I think a main thing was just really taking a step back and looking at the balance between business and relationships. Sometimes we get so caught up in the daily grind and everything that we kind of lose sight of those relationships. What's really important? Why are we even doing this in the first place?
Sure.
Our home life with our spouses and with our friends and our team workers and patients, kind of looking at that balance of not, because we couldn't come to work. And so that's kind of the other thing, is not taking things for granted. I think, especially in America, we kind of get used to all these liberties that we have, and we forget to step back and, we take going to work for granted.
Sure.
I mean, as silly as that sounds, most of the time you're like, oh man, I don't want to go to work. Like, I have to go to work. And then for those couple of months, we were like, oh my gosh, I just want to go to work. Like, I never thought I would hear myself say that, But I always thought, like, okay, if I couldn't go to this job, I could go be a bartender, I could go wait tables, or I could be a delivery person and make money. If that's kind of, I don't know, in the back of my head, I'm like, we'll be able to survive because I can always go do these jobs. Well, guess what? You couldn't do any of those jobs.
Right.
There's literally no way for you to make money.
Yeah.
So I think that as a business owner, taught me to be like, hey, you need to make sure you always have those emergency reserves, because luckily COVID hit me at an okay time. If it would have happened last year, I don't know. I didn't really have those funds set aside. I wasn't in that place in my business. I don't know what would have happened if it would have been last year. But this year, financially, I had some money set aside. My husband had, we had another source of income. We could live off of my husband's income.
Yep.
So I think just not getting spread too thin, not living too large, because you never know what's going to happen. So I think that's the lesson it taught, was just to make sure you have your emergency reserve fund, because life's good and it's going well and you think it's going to keep going well. And, you kind of get lulled into that, and you have to think, you never know you have to expect the unexpected, because life can knock you on your butt sometimes.
Yeah. And feel free to share what you want about this, but as far as the employees that you had at the time, did you have to furlough employees? Were you able to, because of having some reserves, were you able to keep them on? Kind of just walk through that process, because I think that's the other part about being a small business owner. Not every business has to have employees, but where you're a dentist, you've got to have someone up front. You've got to have a hygienist. You've got to have people that are helping you out here. And so there's people that depend on you for income. And so just talk about that a little bit, about kind of how you work through that with your team and just communicated with them.
Sure, yeah. So that was the toughest thing, because I think the big thing is you know how long it's going to last. So if it was a short-term crisis, just going to be a couple weeks, probably could have held out, paid them, whatever. But so with my hygienists, we had to furlough them and have them on unemployment, because they do make a significantly more amount of money. And they couldn't do anything at all, because cleanings are elective, and so we couldn't have them work at all. The rest of us, we were actually able to work somewhat. We could do emergency basis. Now, what was considered emergency was kind of all gray area. I think that was the biggest thing with COVID. There's just no guidelines, like what can we do, what can't we do. No one knows. No one knows the answer to that.
Right.
And so I had them stay on as much as we could to see emergencies. But that was kind of the other problem is I didn't know. I was trying to figure out what was best for them. Is it better for them to be on unemployment fully, or is it better for them to work a couple hours and then... So there was just a lot of trying to figure out what's best for them, because in some cases it's better for them just take the whole week off because that's how it was. But it was all just kind of a rolling, kind of learn as you went.
Yeah.
Totally new situation that no one knows the answers to. So I think just communication, just trying to keep in contact as much as possible. And that was kind of the hard things is always changing. Like one week it would be like, okay guys, we're doing this. And the next week it'd be like, well, okay, never mind, we're doing this, sorry. So it was tough, but I think just trying to keep in contact with them and communicate as best we could.
Yeah, and especially with what you do, it's, I mean, you have to have people in here, and just March, April, May, nobody knew what was going on, and you were probably getting different stories from different people and just didn't know how it was all going to shake out. So, but eventually you were able to bring everybody back in once you got the go-ahead that you could bring everyone in and just kind of picking up business as usual?
Yeah, so thereafter we got the green light. We were pretty darn busy because backlog people hadn't been able to get in for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So it was trying to balance because we kind of wanted to keep it slower because not as many people in the building and in and out, but yet all these people wanted to get in, and so that was kind of difficult. And then again, what are the right protocols? What do we need to do? What's necessary? What's just, But now we're kind of back. We're kind of just steady, so that's kind of been nice where we're back to somewhat normal, I guess you would say.
Right. Cool. So if you could go back maybe when you were, debating whether you were smart enough to be a dentist, or at some point, what advice would you give yourself now, or what advice would you give yourself then that you've learned from through these experiences of being a small business owner?
I mean, it's tough. It's always easy to go back and Monday morning quarterback.
Right.
So, I mean, it's always, don't do this, don't do that with a little decision. But you never know, and you're never going to have all the answers. I think that's the biggest thing, and especially when I was starting my business, I didn't know where to go next. I didn't know. It was tough because I was trying to apply for the loan, and they wanted to know this information, but I didn't know. It's like which, they wanted to know where my location was going to be. Like, well, I don't know because I don't know how much money I can get. Right. And so I think my advice would just do what I do. Is just keep going, keep asking questions, just keep working hard. You live and you learn. Just do the best you can, but just have faith that, if you work hard enough, you ask enough questions, it's all going to work out.
It'll all work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I look back and there's probably some things I would tell myself to do differently in certain situations, but I think all the things that I've learned along the way have helped me get to where I'm at. And I don't know if I'd change that, but it's just kind of when you're in the middle of it, especially when you're starting out, you just wish you knew more and kind of knew how things would turn out. So, yeah. I guess last question here. If you were to being a mentor for someone or just having a conversation with someone who, they're doubting themselves about whether they could be a small business owner or just aren't quite sure what that looks like for them, what advice would you give to them as far as them just getting started or kind of deciding what they're going to do?
Sure. I would tell them the two things they must do. They have to read the book E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Great book. Yep. Great book.
Have to read that.
Yeah.
It might kind of discourage them a little bit, and I don't want it to, but you need to know kind of the realities of it. And there's a lot of good points in there about small business, and yeah, they have to read that book. And then also the other book is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Definitely, I mean, those are two must-reads, I think, that they have to do.
You talked about, from the financial side, this year was better than maybe it would have been last year. Was Profit First part of that for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I started Profit First a little bit before the beginning of the year last year, and that was huge. That was kind of the beginning of the just really... Because when you manage your own expenses, it's on a much smaller scale. And then all of a sudden you get a bigger scale and you have all these coming in and coming out. And you can kind of get lost in, you don't know what you have, what money's where. And,
right.
You might have this big chunk in your bank account, but that doesn't mean, a lot of that's for taxes and for stuff you've already spent, but it's just not out of your bank account yet.
Right, yeah. And for those profit first, the title can be a little bit misleading. It's not all about making money. It's really about kind of figuring out, you need to designate what you're bringing in. You need to designate that for taxes, for payroll, for expenses, things like that. So it's really just about being diligent for what you're bringing in, and
absolutely. I think they named that book terribly because it sounds like it's all about just about making money, but it's so much. It's more than that. It's really just how to manage your finances, and the whole point of being a business owner is to make money. I mean, at the end of the day, and so I would also really recommend they step back and take a look. Why do you want to be a small business owner? That's a huge question to ask. If you're doing it for more freedom from your time or to make a lot of money, that's maybe you need to rethink it, because you're definitely, it requires a lot of your time, and unless you find a way to take yourself out and to just be the owner and not be in the business, you're going to be a slave to your business. And owning your own business is not a get rich quick scheme,
right.
and also it can be the opposite. I think people think that because you own a business, you're rich and you have all this money, and quite the contrary. I think you'd be surprised if you talk to a lot of business owners, and a lot of them aren't going to admit it. You ask them, oh, hey, how's business? They're going to say, oh, yeah, great, doing well, we're so great. But how many of them are willing to tell you the truth? And then he talks about that in the E-Myth, that a lot of business owners are one paycheck, 1 month away from bankruptcy, from going under. They're just hanging on by a thread. But I don't want to discourage people, because owning a business is great. It is, to me, it's the American dream. It's something I've always wanted, and just that sense of accomplishment and pride. And I can't tell you that every time I drive by my business, just look at it like, hey, that's mine. Like, I did that. That's, right. That's pretty cool. It's another, it's another thing. But just that you're never going to know all the answers, and you're not going to have everything figured out before you do it. At some point, you just got to jump in. Yeah. And once you jump in, you'll learn to swim. Sometimes fear is the biggest motivator.
You'll always have an excuse not to do it.
Absolutely.
But you just have to go forward with it. So, well, this has been awesome. Thank you very much. I guess I'm going to give you a chance here. If there's anything with Lyon Family Dentistry that you want to plug, any specials you've got going on, or just want anybody to know about.
Sure, absolutely. Right now we have an $89 new patient special. So come and get your teeth clean, x-rays, any of that, no surprises, just flat out $89. And then also our biggest thing is, we don't care where you go as long as you're going to a dental place somewhere. And so our big thing is we try to make sure that it's okay. If you haven't been in dentist 5-10 years, that's okay. We have a lot of patients that haven't been in a long time. There's no judgment. There's no embarrassment about what your teeth look like. You're welcome here, and we'll take you where you are, and we're not going to push you into treatment. We're going to just educate let you know what you have going on, and let you know what the options are, and then it's up to you what you kind of want to do from there.
Awesome. Cool. And if anybody wants to look you guys up or get a hold of you, what's the easiest way to do that? Facebook, website?
Yeah, LyonFamilyDentistry.com is our website, or we're on Facebook, Lyon Family Dentistry. You can check us out there.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Alicia. I really
thanks,
appreciate
Brian.
it.